Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Mans. I am extremely excited to be here. I'm here on behalf of IBH. Some of you are well familiar with IBH and others are newer. They reached out to me a few weeks ago because, listen, we all know what's going on. It's unprecedented times. Everything is a little strange right now. So they thought it might be beneficial for us to have a brief chat about what is going on external to our companies and what is going on internally. Again, I said my name is Nicole. I'm excited to chat with you today. Want to address a few housekeeping things before we jump in. Everyone has been placed on mute. However, you will have the option of using the questions box. It is private and confidential. Your name will not be mentioned when you leave us a question. We will leave ample time at the end of the presentation for you to ask questions. Also, we'll do a few polling questions. I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know what your responses are to the polls. So please be participatory, and also be ready to click that mouse when it's time to do those polls. And of course, at the end, like I mentioned, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. All right, let's get started. So that's me. When I was all dressed up, you probably don't want to see what I look like right now. Work from home life. Here's a question. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. We did some testing ahead of time. I see some hands going up. Let's see. People are saying they can hear. People are saying yes. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Okay. All right, now let me try to, all right. So let's jump in again, because there's no point in proceeding if you can't hear me. All right, so let me give you a little bit of background. I have been in human resources compliance for over 25 years, specifically affirmative action compliance. Right out of college, I started working for the Department of Labor, and I was an auditor for them in affirmative action. So I was out auditing companies like American Express and different universities, anybody that was a federal contractor. After 11 years, I decided that I wanted to make a move to private industry. So I did that. And I became an affirmative action consultant. And then after a few years, became the manager of the group. In recent times, just as December of 2019, I also assumed US, I'm sorry, one moment. I'm sorry. Okay. I also took over US separations as well as HR policies. So I do have a breadth of knowledge in the HR space and have had some experience with what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get rolling. All right, here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the current external challenges, which are something like we've never seen before. We're going to shift from problem to solution. We're going to enhance communication skills. We're going to increase engagement and productivity. And finally, we're going to embrace and display courageous leadership. Let's get rolling. So let's talk about what's going on right now. We hear these words in the news, on Facebook, unprecedented times. We are overwhelmed by everything that is just so different. I know I'll speak personally. We were sent home from the 9 to 5 on the 13th of March, and we're told this is until further notice. Well, of course, that was shocking. What do you mean until further notice? So we packed up our things, we went home, and we started this whole new world of working from home, watching the news, figuring out what was going on, and we're all, quite frankly, still trying to figure that out. So we want to talk through that today. We want to talk about how to manage those emotions that have come up since this all happened, and how we can get to a place where we feel more comfortable and more confident in our day-to-day. All right, we're going to run our first polling question, and the question is: employees currently feel a sense of belonging with our company. So we'll give you a little time to respond to that poll. All right, thank you for clicking those mice. We have some results coming through. Again, our question was: employees currently feel a sense of belonging with our company. The lion's share of you feel that you agree. The second highest number is that you strongly agree. So that's wonderful to think that you are feeling a sense of belonging and you are feeling engaged. That's extremely important. So your companies are already doing a great job so far. All right. We're going to move to the second polling question. And that one is: employees' sense of belonging with our company has changed since last year. So let's talk about and let's respond to how we feel this year as compared to last year. Right, results are coming in. Okay. So the lion's share of you feel that the sense of belonging has stayed about the same, closely followed by a sense of belonging has declined. So that is really different from that first polling question, right? I mean, not different as far as contrary, but it's giving us some additional information about the sense of belonging. And it's actually something that means that this presentation is right on time, because I think this time it's natural for us all to feel a little bit disconnected, maybe a lot disconnected, quite frankly. So let's move on. Let's talk about those lemons, and now we can turn them into lemonade. We all know what's been hitting the news. It's not just external things though, right? It's how they affect us internally and what we're dealing with at work. Work looks very different for a lot of us. I am not sure how many of you were already working from home. It's certainly newer for me to be here at all times, and that can feel both positive and negative. You may be missing the pieces that you had in the office, that interaction. It's hard sometimes to be optimistic. I'll tell you a story quickly. When this first happened, I was fine at first at home. I felt very comfortable at home. I was good to go. And then as things progressed and the uncertainty continued, my daughter was actually set to graduate from college on May 8th. And I was filled with panic because it had been, as we all know, education can be, up and down and tumultuous at times. And so it was going to be such a wonderful celebration to have completed that. And I just was filled with so much anxiety and stress. Are they going to let her graduate? Are they going to let her finish? How is this going to play out? What are we going to do? And, you know, it's so easy to settle into that stress and so easy to settle into that anxiety. It can keep you up at night. It can wake you up at night. And how do you pull yourself out of it? How do you convince yourself that things will be okay? That's tough. But there are a couple of things to remember. This is one of the rare situations where you have so many other people who are going through what you're going through. And we're not just talking about people in your family. We're not just talking about your friends. We're talking about people in other countries. We're talking about people all over the world that are dealing with what you're dealing with. So you're certainly not alone. And, you know, there are ways to manage this. And there are things to focus upon that can remind you that everything is going to be okay. Moving from problem to solution. Let's talk about that. There are 4 basic ways to get that done. The first is acceptance. It's so key to understand what you can and cannot control. And I don't know about you, but I spend a whole lot of time thinking about stuff I cannot control and spinning myself in a circle like the Tasmanian devil. You guys remember him? But it does me no good. Focusing on what I cannot fix. For instance, the example with my daughter. All I could do was hope and pray and wish that they would let her graduate. I couldn't control it. You know, it was something that her university had to make a decision on. And so at some point, I actually was able to calm down and say, Nicole, just wait and see what happens. You cannot control this like you like to control everything else. You can't. So let this play out and see how it goes. I don't want to keep you in suspense. They did let her graduate, so yay for that. But it did. I had to. That was one of the first things I had to do, was understand that it wasn't something that I could control. Perspective. One thing that I always say at work, when people are running around in a frenzy and I didn't get this report in on time and I didn't, and of course, if they were just negligent, that's a different conversation, right? But if it really was out of their control, I say, hey, listen, we don't do surgery here. Now, I understand if I was talking with surgeons, I couldn't use that example. But in the workplace, in an office environment, you know, I say often, we don't do surgery here. No one's going to die if that report is not in today. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Do your best. Have some different perspective about it. Is this going to matter in a week? Is it going to matter in a month? Many, many, many times it just isn't. It just is not going to matter. So once we accept that we can't control something, and then we alter our perspective about it and really place it in priority. Is it high priority, middle, low? You know, focus on what is really important and not giving yourself extra stress if it isn't. Let's talk about lessons. What can you learn from the problem? You know, even if it's not a lesson like, okay, I know not to make that mistake again. In this particular case, the example with my daughter was, I did learn, you know, there are going to be really big things that are out of your control, and you're going to have to accept that. And I will carry that forward when something else comes up. I'll carry that forward. I'll say, you know, remember that situation? You couldn't fix it. You had to wait. And so I'll take that forward with me, remembering that. Solutions. One of the things that I like to challenge myself to do is to see how fast I can fast forward from problem to solution. I try to get faster every single time. So if something hits, I try to challenge myself. How quickly can I come up with the bright spot? How quickly can I come up with the glass half full? I know it sounds like, daisies and running in the field and, kind of flowery stuff. But I try to figure out how quickly I can, because we all can do an excellent job of giving ourselves stress. We don't need any help in that arena. So let's give ourselves some power, because actually being in solution mode is so powerful. I know I feel powerful when I figure out something. Oh my goodness, you can't even talk to me the rest of the day because I fixed the problem. So challenge yourself to how quickly you can move from woe is me to here's what we're going to do. All right, those lessons we talked about. Let's talk about those. There are plenty of life lessons that we can learn during challenging times. It's actually the best time to learn them. I'll give you another quick example. So I mentioned that I used to be an auditor with the Department of Labor. With BNY Mellon, I run that piece. I deal with the auditors now. I had no idea auditors were so scary, and when I was one, but now I know that they are. But typically in a year, we get 2 or 3 audits that we have to deal with. Well, in 2013, we got 18 in 1 year. And I have a pretty small team that handles the affirmative action piece. So we were all pretty frantic, like, hey, we're used to dealing with 2 or 3 a year. 18 is ridiculous. What are we going to do? And one of the lessons that I learned during that extremely challenging time was that we cannot shine, or we don't typically shine, when things are status quo. We really show our mettle and our strength when we're being tested. How are we going to come out of this? Are we able to keep our cool? Are we able to rise to the occasion? Were we able to show our strength and our expertise? And that's what happened. The team handles 18 audits as if they in the 3. And because it was so much more than what we were normally used to, we really showed our capacity to handle it, but we showed our expertise. And those are the things that can come out of hard times. What personality trait are you going to enhance during this time? How can you show each other grace when people are really struggling and having a hard time? These are some of the lessons that we can learn during this time. Let's talk about a few other things that are kind of more hands-on. So many of us are working remotely. I'm not entirely sure how many you are, but again, I said my guess is that a fair amount of you are. So it can be very different from being in the office. Even I've heard, I don't have any pets, but I've heard stories where cats are looking at people working from home. What in the world are you doing here? And they're not happy about it. So, that many people have children at home. They're trying to have Zoom meetings, and children are screaming in the background or asking for a peanut butter sandwich. I mean, I myself, before I got on here, told the folks I live with, listen, I'm going to be talking to people between 3 and 4. Please do not ask me any questions. So we're doing those kinds of things. We are talking with people we never talked to before during the workday. There are things that we have to learn about each other, and things that you're probably learning about your quote-unquote coworkers that you didn't know before. Quickly they get bored, how many things they need during the day. I have a 14-year-old son, how many times they eat during the day. There's plenty to learn from being in this new space that we're in. Management style, yours and theirs. It's my understanding that there are a lot of leaders on this call. You are a leader whether you have people report you or not, because you've been charged with very specific work that you do, and you're considered an expert at it. And so you are a leader to coworkers and the like. And so, but if you happen to have people that report to you, management style is very interesting to see it play out in the surroundings. Some managers are very used to and very comfortable with being able to pop their head in your office, pop their head in your cubicle and ask you a question. they're having to think outside the box with that, you know, and it is a little uncomfortable for them, particularly ones who enjoy control. So we have to look, you know, and give maybe them a little grace for how they're having to manage their new surroundings. But also, how are we doing if we're managers? You know, how are we communicating? What could we do better with our employees in this new environment? Some things to think about. With regards to new ways to work, that's kind of similar to what I've been saying there. I know for me, I'm sort of old school. I like to print things out, especially if it's something long to read. I'll tell you guys a little secret. I went to Staples and printed this presentation out just because I wanted to touch it. I wanted to, you know, leaf through it before I came to talk to you. I wanted to make little notes on the paper. It is something that it just makes me feel more comfortable. And so I personally am having to adjust and make change with the way that I work. So what kinds of things are you having to do too? Are you a printer like I am? Time management and self-care. A lot of times people take vacation to get away from the office. Well, we're away from the office, so I think a lot of people feel like they don't need to do that. I have challenged myself to take at least a day per month because I don't want to turn on the laptop. I understand I could be looking at my phone at the kitchen table or even propped up in the bed if I wanted, looking at my work email. I don't want to do it. I don't want anyone to ask me a question. I don't want to attend the meeting on that day. I don't want to do any of that. And please take that time if you have the opportunity. Please fit that in, because it doesn't matter if we're home. You know, we still need that break. We still need to rejuvenate. We still need to have time away from discussing work matters. Looking ahead, what I was thinking about when that came about when I put that in the presentation, was a lot of people are really thinking about how they feel about their companies now, how they feel about the work that they do. And I'll give you an example of that. I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends, and I was really worried about them when this first came about because they were really struggling, particularly if they had a brick and mortar store that they needed people to come into. I was really, really worried. And so, but what it did for me was it helped me reflect on the work that I do and the fact that I'm so thankful I haven't had any kind of disruption in pay, that I can do the work that I do from home. And it just reaffirmed to me that the work that I do is what I was meant to do, that my career is on the path that I wanted to be on. And so, have you thought about that? Have you thought about how this time that we're in has affected how you feel about your work or your company? It's a question to ask yourself. All right, we're gonna move on to communications. What is something that you always hear when you see those interviews with couples who have been married 50 years? And they ask, what is the secret? What is the secret? I don't know about you guys, but I always hear it's great communication. We communicate, we're friends. Well, like it or not, for better or worse, work is a relationship, and it requires effective communication too for it to be successful. So let's jump into that. What is good communication? So some thoughts that come to mind when I think of good communication are things like it's concise. It doesn't rattle on and on and on so that you can't get the point. It is honest. One of the things that we're learning now with regards to separate communications or connections is that we have to do some things in a different way. I mentioned earlier the manager popping their head into our office or cubicle. We don't have that option right now. Communications and connections are a bit severed. So what can we do to enhance those? You know, are we setting up time to talk? Are our emails not just getting right to the point, but asking, how are you? How's the family? How have you been faring? Do you need any kind of help? There are various ways to communicate, obviously, and we all know them all because in this remote world, we are using every aspect of them. One that I will say, and I thought was a little bit outside of the box, but I thought was pretty cool. My manager actually had his direct reports set up or join a WhatsApp conversation. So that app that you have on, and any kind of phone can log into it, but it was basically for that water cooler kind of conversation. We have email for the work-related stuff, but it was for, hey, how are you? Oh, my daughter was playing soccer and now she isn't. Oh, here's a funny cartoon I found. And I have to say, it really did enhance how we were communicating. It gave you the feeling of not just, oh, did you send that report? Oh, did you schedule that meeting? It did enhance that feeling of belonging, which we started the conversation with. And that's important because, as we say, I'm looking at it right now, 34% said they feel the sense of belonging has declined. So it's important to look at ways to increase it. Finally, to talk about, as far as communications goes, raising the comfort level of those who are participating. A little bit different from the first two bullets here. What I mean by that is, I think that we have to allow people, if we aren't already, the space to be open, the space to be honest. If they're struggling, if they're anxious, and they feel comfortable enough to tell you that, encourage that. And here's why. I hate to tie this back to work exactly, but here's what I mean. When people feel comfortable talking to you and being open with you, the floodgates can open of things that they've been wanting to tell you. They might have a solution to a process that's been clunky for years. They might want to take over a project that they just did not feel confident enough to request. So when we let people feel open and like that sense of belonging to the crew and to the team, you never know what's going to come out of that comfort level. Certainly loyalty, but new ideas, new solutions. And that's always something that we want to encourage. All right, let's talk about engagement and productivity. I don't know about you guys, but all I hear about is engagement nowadays. I think the value of it has really been highlighted. When people feel engaged, they stay at those companies, they refer other people to the company, they work harder for you, they feel like they are a part of a family. And that's what we want. That's how we want everyone to feel who works for us, who works with us. That's the goal. So quickly, let's go through this list. Compassion. Again, we talked about people struggling. If there's an opportunity to give someone a day off that they didn't expect, and you know they're struggling, do that. If someone needs to take some time off to go be with a family member, someone just needs a mental health day, yet it might not be in one of their days, or it might not quite fit into the work scheme right now. Let's be open to the possibilities of offering compassion. One-on-one discussions and check-ins are so key. We can see if someone needs help with something. We can see if they are okay. Are they having any problems? Keeping those on the calendar. I have those happening on a recurring schedule, which I think many people do, but I think it's important to keep those going. It's so important to highlight employee value. One of the things that I've done from the very beginning is, if I'm on a group email with my staff and others, I thank them in front of everyone. I know people frown on reply to all emails, but I think it's important for people to know that I appreciate them, that I appreciate the work that they've done, the project they completed. It's one thing, yes, it's positive for me to tell them one-on-one, but I like to give people their flowers in front of everyone. I think it's important. Employee features on the intranet. I know some companies have that capability, some don't, but it's always nice. I see sometimes teams are honored for really doing well on a project. Those recognitions and those praises go a long, long way. Anonymous surveys are important too, but with follow through. Ask people questions and really, really, really take the answers into consideration. Tell people, send out an email afterwards and say, we heard that you're struggling with the way that we offer benefit. We heard that you don't like the way that we've structured our performance evaluations. We want you to know we put together a focus group to address those matters. We are going to dig into this. We're going to ask some of you to participate in the focus group. We want to fix this. It will go a long way towards engagement and productivity. Encourage people to join affinity networks, employee resource groups. A lot of times, many people feel that all we want them to do is be locked in their office, locked in their desk. We encourage them to have a more rounded career. They can grow in different ways in the affinity networks and employee resource groups that they may not be able to grow in their 9 to 5. Let them know that you care about their development across the board. Bring in external speakers to talk about things not work related. So maybe you bring in someone to talk about how to get scholarship money for your college student. Maybe you bring them in to talk about how to buy a house or to talk about nutrition. Let them know that it's not all salt mines at your job, that you want to give them tools for their toolbox that aren't even related to their work. Personal touches. If there's an opportunity to send somebody a card for their anniversary, to send them a crocheted blanket for their new granddaughter or for their new baby, do it. Do it. Enhance their remote workspace. If you know someone is working off the side of their bed, which I've heard of, which must be so uncomfortable, or sitting at a hard kitchen table, and they just need that mouse pad with the wrist support, send it to them, give it to them. And finally, of course, we know the value of a really good employee assistance program. All right, we have another polling question. This is our final one. This one says, describe your company's current culture compared to last year. Let's see what we've got. All right. Okay, so we've landed where we have always had a pretty good culture, which is great. And we have always had some focus on culture. So it sounds like the companies out there are doing a good job of communicating the culture, and also that the attendees and the respondents to the poll feel that it is a pretty good culture. That's great. Why is workplace culture important? I will tell you that, I've been thinking a lot about this piece for definitely since March. I don't know if I thought about it too much beforehand, but certainly since March. And what your company communicates to you and to the world can really color your satisfaction at the company. I think we all know that. I think when a company, states how they feel about whatever topic, a lot of times it can cause you to feel very prideful about working for them, and it enhances that sense of belonging, which we know that has declines a little, and so we want to look for ways to raise it, and workplace culture can do it. So let's talk a little bit about it quickly. Vision and mission. So typically, vision is typically a statement that focuses on the potential inherent in the company's future or what they intend to be. That's so important to think about. When someone founded these companies, they thought about the mission is, of course, what kind of work they do, what they offer, goods and services, but the vision is who are we? Who do we want to be known as? And that is so important. And we're not talking about necessarily controversial matters here, or them taking a stand on one issue or another. But I think you can take a stand on certain things that will not exclude anyone. You can take a stand on fairness. You can take a stand on openness. You can take a stand on engagement and on the fact that you treat employees well. Those are the things people want to see you take a stand on. Tough times equal opportunities. I gave that example of having team audits. When that happened, it was an opportunity to show my expertise and my team's expertise. It's the same thing with company culture. Tough times. What will companies say, do to show where they stand? It's important to think about. Messaging from the top of this is so key. What is your CEO? What is HR saying? What messages are they sharing with everyone that lets internals and externals know that they mean business when they're caring about their employees? You know, diversity is such a hot topic these days, and we know it's not only diversity of demographic, but diversity of thought, diversity of awareness and ideas. That kind of diversity is very key to foster as well. And that messaging should come from the top of the house. All right, we are rounding it up and about to get to an opportunity for you to ask some questions. So let's talk about leaders, managers, and employees. We have all of those on the call. I consider myself, and I am, all three. I'm a leader, I'm a manager, I'm an employee. And all of those different roles can sometimes fall into one, or you can feel very separate in each. But I want to bring your attention to the concept of courageous leadership. And what do I mean by that? So some of the questions to think about: what does a great leader look like to you? How did the best ones and the worst ones make you feel? Let's talk about specifically how you can become a courageous leader and what that might look like, and how you can foster loyalty and trust in your employees and your workers. So when I say courageous leadership, I am talking a little bit about the previous slides where we were talking about what we stand for. You know, what does the company stand for? And what do I as a leader stand for? But what I really, really mean in the everyday arena is having my back, or me having your back. If there is a situation where where someone who reports to me is not in the room, I want them to always know I'm never throwing them under the bus. I'm always representing them well. Say, for instance, it's the difference between these two examples. Someone comes to me, say Beth works for me, and someone comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Beth messed up this report that I needed, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and it's due on Thursday, and this is just a mess. Option one is to say, what? Oh my gosh, Beth is always messing something up. Let me go talk to her about this because this is ridiculous. This doesn't make any sense. Or you can say, I have never personally had that experience with Beth. I can't speak to the experience that you had, but I am going to go speak with her and just see what happens. I'll let you know after I have an opportunity to talk with Beth. And I promise you, Beth and I will make it right, and you will have your report when you need to have it. It's the difference between letting people know, because guess what? Separate from, I'm letting this person know. You're not going to run to me with stories about my employees and expect me to join in with the meanness, with the hostility, with the lack of support. That's courageous leadership. It's taking having the backs of your employees. They know it, but other people know it as well. And that's so key, because guess what it does? It fosters loyalty and it fosters trust. And people know that you throw them under the bus. They know they can come to you with a mistake. You can help them fix it. Because what happens is if people know you will react in a hostile manner, what is going to encourage them to seek your help? And say Beth doesn't come to you. Well, it might not get fixed by Thursday. And in this particular case, I'll just add that on, that Beth did come to you and talk to you about it, because that wasn't in the example at first. But it's about letting people know who you work with and who work for you, that they can trust you and that you have their backs. So as a summary, we want to always help employees to be their best in whatever way that goes. So that is supporting them through the tough times. That is making sure they understand that they can trust you. You want to take time to listen if they're having a hard time. Kindness goes a very, very, very long way. You want to help them figure out a way to get from problem to solution as fast as possible. You want them to feel engaged, let them know that you value them. You want to teach them, and you want to learn how to communicate effectively and concisely and give them the opportunity to be open with you. You want to be clear about what you stand for, and you also want to be a courageous leader. All right, so as you'll see here, always please remember, and I've had an opportunity to use EAP many times, and it has always gotten me through a tough time. That's me speaking personally. I was not paid to make that statement, but it is a resource that I can't even put into words of some of the hard times it's gotten me through. So you see here the list of things that for employees: health, diet, wellness, self-assessment, emotions and behaviors, and relationships. And for employers, you know, those items as well. All right, it is question time. So Brenda is going to see if we have any questions, and we will give you an opportunity to have them answered. Brenda, did we have any questions come through?
Yeah, it looks like a few of you have already responded, sent in your questions, so let's just jump right into the Q&A. So our first question is, how can I encourage my team or coworkers to focus on the positives during these times?
Oh, that's a good question. And you know, one of the things is it's about knowing your teamwork, your team members' personalities, right? Because it may not be a blanket statement. It's most likely going to be an individual conversation. Some people are very stoic. Some people are, you know, oh, I'm fine. I just, you know, I might need you to just look over this document because it's difficult for me to review it or to proof it without being able to print it. That's kind of my thing. So yeah, it might be that. And someone may say, I'm just so anxious. I can't get anything done. I'm just so worried. I can't stop crying. I really need some help here. So I think it is going to be an individual approach. And I think you have to know your person, your coworker, your subordinate enough to know them personally enough to be able to provide them with the right approach. What else you got, Brenda?
Okay. So next question is, how do I communicate with a coworker who doesn't want to engage?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a good one too. Don't you love when people say, oh, that's a good one. That's the person buying themselves time to answer. So let's see. Repeat it for me, Brenda, please.
So how do I communicate with a coworker who doesn't want to engage?
Okay, so I think we're back to personalities again. We know that this person is, you know, they're kind of, for whatever reason, either they are dissatisfied and don't like us, or they are someone who genuinely just feels like work is for work. Work is not for engaging, work is for work. And I think sometimes we do have to let people be themselves. And I have seen situations where we've pressed too hard on engagement. And hey, I want you to join this. I want you to be a part of this. And a person says, listen, I can't get my work done if you keep pulling me into all of this stuff. And so I think that we have to, again, it's case by case. I think that we put it out there. We let people know we're here. We let them know that they can come to us with whatever matter they like. But genuinely, there are some personalities that really just want to have their nose down and do their work. And you know, 5 o'clock, they're pulling the coat on. So we have to respect them as well. Any more?
Yeah, a few more questions here.
Okay.
What are the key aspects of a great leader?
Oh, key aspects of a great leader. Yeah. So I think one of them is relatability. That's the first one that popped into my head because it feels so important. I think even if you are a master at what you do, if no one can ever talk to you about it, then I don't think that you're an effective leader. I think that, and it's not, being relatable doesn't necessarily mean I have kids, so you have kids, and I've been married, so you've been married. That's not at all what I mean. I think it means I've walked your walk. I know where you've been, and even if I haven't done your exact job, I've certainly been in a position like it. I think another thing is listening more than talking. It's so important. One thing that is truly important, and it's why I put it in the presentation, is that courageous leadership piece. It is knowing that that person has your back. It is about knowing that that person will represent you well when you're not around. I think those are some key aspects to being a great leader.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. It looks like you do have a few more questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, do you have any tips on helping employees transition back into the office? I have some employees who are worried about the end of working remotely and that adjustment.
Yes. Wow. So we haven't really talked about that in my 9 to 5. Those conversations are happening elsewhere. I'm not included in them yet, but I will say I can understand that concern. I almost feel it myself, like, ooh, what's going to happen when it's time to go back? It's going to be, now that's going to feel like such a shift as opposed to shifting home. I think if it's at all possible, I understand certain people are essential and have really been missed, and maybe even business has suffered without them being right on site. But if there's any way possible to do, you know, a slow roll in, to do a gradual return, so that people can get back into the roll of things, into the flow of things slowly. And I say that because there are going to be people who are still very, very anxious about, you know, the transmission of the virus. They're saying they want us to go back, but do we know if it's safe? There don't seem to be firm ideas about if it's truly safe or not. So I think if it's at all possible, a slow return, a gradual return, maybe we'll have them come back, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday and Tuesday, and work from home the rest of the week. I think that would be really beneficial, and it certainly would go a long way with the engagement and with letting your employees know that you hear them and you hear their concerns.
Okay, thank you, Nikki.
Sure.
We have a few more questions here.
Sure.
How do you deal with employees' fears that working from home and having a limited schedule may be viewed that employers may think they don't need these employees after all? Like, money can be saved because this is working with a limited schedule.
That's a very good question. I think one I hadn't given thought to, because most people are pretty much doing, at least in my world, are doing the work that they were doing in the office. And so, you know, they're still delivering the same product. Um, I think everybody's going to be reevaluating things, to be honest, and that might not be the best answer or the most desired answer. But I think, quite frankly, even my company, I've been told that, you know, a lease on certain buildings will be up in the next few years. Are they going to renew? Are they going to decide that, you know what, let's leave everybody remote, or let's bring people back, but only bring a certain amount of people back because we want to minimize this real estate? I think everybody is looking at things, but I think those that make the decisions really need to be mindful of making quick decisions where that's concerned, because quite frankly, you employed this person. You posted the position because you needed work. You needed help with that work. And so just because they happen to be doing it from their kitchen table or from their home office doesn't mean you don't still need the work. So I think in this particular case, we all have to really analyze what we have, what we need to get done. And the fact that you hired these people to get it done, and guess what? Engagement will be extremely poor if you let people go and pile the now separated person's work onto the current employees. And you have to factor that in as well, because then they'll leave and then you won't have anyone. So there are a lot of different aspects to consider there. But you definitely have to think about doing a true assessment, not just letting this time with the pandemic color what you think you need and what you don't think you need. Really do a true assessment of the work that needs to be done. Anything else, Brenda?
Just looking at the questions panel here, and I think that's all we have right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, fantastic. I was so worried. I wanted to make sure I didn't go over time-wise. I respect everyone's time. I really, really, really thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you. I know it's kind of one-sided. It's a little odd for me too. I usually do these kinds of things in person. But, you know, I wish everyone the very, very best. I wish you all, you know, a lifting of anxiety if you're having any right now. Definitely use employee assistance programs to their fullest. I know I do. I don't make any apologies about reaching out when I need help. And I wish you, you know, I wish you all the best. You know, I all get to go and have a meal at a restaurant one day. So not all together, but soon, that we all can do that and get back to our lives, our lives. So thank you for the opportunity and have a great rest of your day.